The question, how do we improve engineering curriculum? In the mid-1990s, major corporations voiced concerns about engineering education. The institutions were creating engineers, scientists. In 2013, executives of 318 employers were surveyed by the Hart Research Association. The following is what some of the executives stated. This is what we need in our engineers. 90% said, demonstrate ethical judgment, integrity, intercultural skills, and the capacity to continue learning. 93% stated, ability to think critically, communicate clearly, and solve complex problems is more important than the major. And 95% said contributing to innovation.
In reflection, the engineering profession involves much more than just quantitative analysis and reasoning. Our goal is to develop an integrated curriculum that weaves together engineering, math, and science with key professional skills, including global context, design thinking, communicating with multiple audiences, business and management skills, leadership, ethical standards, and the ability to do self-directed inquiry. The ultimate objective is professionals with a holistic understanding of engineering practice. In doing this, we've identified looked through and came up with 7 categories that identify things behaviors and skills that engineers need. The posters show how they would integrate across all 4 years in an engineering curriculum. Kyle's going to review a couple of the categories so that you can see how this works.
So I'm gonna use my real voice now. What we came out of is there are common threads that wrap around the freshman, sophomore, junior year. And one of the things that we see a link with is business management skills versus leadership skills, and how these particular things intertwine to teaming and roles, accountability and trust, and leadership dynamics, as well as when you get into the ethical standards and self-directed inquiry, the awareness of tools to the use of tools to self-directed research.
One last item, we needed your help. We've put together a survey about integrative thinking and how some of this may relate to what you're doing. And so we would like you to go to that website and complete that survey so that we can monitor that and use that in kind of advancing a proposal we may work on together. So we got under our 10 minutes. We wanted to make sure you had plenty of time to ask us questions and reflect.
Specializing in something other than taking the core curriculum base. And so I just wanted to ask if that's something that you guys discussed.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're not looking at introducing these skills outside of the engineering curriculum. Our goal is to infuse current classes and introduce project-based challenges within the current curriculum where these can be skills that are learned and skills that can be assessed.
So one addition. This matrix was developed originally. We talked about the idea of identifying kind of candidate classes or categories of classes and mapping to that. This basically is more generic and allows each department or program to look at how they could begin to integrate these concepts at these levels throughout their curriculum. So maybe looking at the freshman year, which of these could you look at? How can you develop these skills across the curriculum that you have? It would be enhanced by general ed requirement courses. It could be enhanced by minor courses from other non-engineering courses could enhance it, but these would be integrated into engineering courses.
Go here, then we go over there. Go ahead.
So some thoughts about who's doing the integration. I ask this because I think a lot of the models of engineering education we've been talking about for the last day and a half are traditional. 18-year-old to 22-year-old at the same institution, and increasingly community college is a major path, or somebody taking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years to do their education. So thoughts about how this could be mapped into a personal integration of it
I'll take
Okay.
using some of the information about the university where I'm from, James Madison. This breaks the paradigm. I mean, you could come in as a first-year student and you may have come from a high school that was really team-oriented, but you didn't understand that you could actually have leadership infused in that particular setting. Or that from the standpoint of the code of ethics or analyzing case studies. These are all things that are characteristics that we would love at the end of that year or at the end of that setting, students would have, but by the time that they have finished, they are able to actually do the self-directed research. So it's more so however you package it for yourself in your 5, 6 to 8 years. But at the end of the day, if you're able to demonstrate that you've gone through these different skills and have these different skills and are proficient at them, then we have actually helped you identify where you can be successful in an engineering profession.
And I would follow that by saying that what we would want to do is communicate to the students that this is a skill set that's important, that should complement their engineering skill set. So if you have a non-traditional student that's going to take longer, is coming from a community college, you communicate that to that as best you can, or work with the community colleges in your area to help them understand that, so that they can either integrate it in their curriculum or make their students aware of these other skill sets, so that you have a more holistic vision of what an engineer has to be able to do.
First of all, that's very pretty and reminds me that I haven't had Lucky Charms cereal in a long time. So thank you very much. Secondly, though, you had 39 post-it notes worth of expectation, which to me seems like both a promulgation and an assessment nightmare. So have you thought about how you're going to meaningfully integrate this in across so many different people teaching these courses, and how on earth you would assess not only the 39 post-it notes, but the true integration across all of that?
Okay, I can take that. What we'd start off with is we'd start off with curricula like the BME program at the University of Wisconsin or James Madison, where they've already taken design and integrated it throughout the curriculum. So there are already many opportunities for project-based learning. And if we scaffold the activities, we're not trying to teach everything all at the same time. We're trying to do it incrementally, so the assessment tools shouldn't be that challenging, because these are things that are already being done in these types of courses. I teach engineering design at Northwestern, and every single engineering design course, I assess pretty much all of these skills. Now, I don't do it in a scaffolded way, and I think that's one of the major goals here, is starting off with an introduction to these skills in the first year and leading to a demonstration or a mastery in the last year. But if we do it in a stepwise manner in a project-based class, it should be fairly familiar territory to people that teach those classes.
So, one of the discussions that we had in our group was the fact that, in a meeting like this, we always talk about the things that we would like to add to our curriculum. But there's a law of incompressibility of 4 years or 6 years or whatever it is. So one of the challenges is always, what are we willing to give up? You can take method of sections away from me, from my cold dead hands. You know what I mean, right? So that's one item. So what it is that we have to have a dialogue as a community and as a faculty as to what are the things that can be removed from the curriculum. That's a very tough question, and that's something that we have to answer before we can progress with some of these things.
I think there's multiple threads there. First of all, I would say that what this does for us is if it provides a framework to think about how we can integrate these skills across the curriculum in 4 years. It's a starting point, and we maybe 2 hours of discussion. Okay, so a lot of depth there. Significant reflection. But what I would say is we now are beginning to think about that, but then we begin to think about the other threads that have gone throughout this, the last couple of days, about ways, exercises, things that you're doing, may be able to take that in, and you're doing it already, or it's part of what you're doing. You may be able to build in some of these skills through that and begin to think about that. And then after we've done those things, then we can talk about what to drop from the curriculum, because that will create a civil war in certain departments.
I just wanted to add one thing to that. I think that one of our motivations is that right now, many of us teach design a little bit in the first year, and we teach a lot of it in the last year and nothing in between. Students see through that. And so anything they've learned in the first year, they forget. They may not take it seriously because we don't ask them to exercise these types of skills in years 2 and 3. And so the idea is that we need to build up and reinforce these skills. We can't just confine it to a single class. And like other people were mentioning, this could be something where you infuse these types of themes into some examples or project-based learning that you may already be doing in a particular class. So it's not adding classes. It may be changing the way we ask students to address heat transfer or circuits or whatever it is that they're learning. Yeah.
So we attempted an integration like this at my institution about 8 years ago, and it was very successful for a few years. It was funded by the National Science Foundation. And what happened over the long haul is that there was a disaggregation among the faculty as to their level of commitment to collaboration. And when you have integration like you're proposing, it inherently, I think, my hypothesis, requires collaboration among the faculty. So at the core of it is how do you encourage collaboration among faculty to support in the long run the kind of integration you're proposing?
It is called the red. Seriously, from the standpoint of what you're saying, you're talking about institutional change. And if that is the case, you're going to have to blow up the institution from the standpoint of how we are rated and ranked. If this is something that is inherent and that the institution wants to have happen, you have to give the people some incentive, however that is. But I think the point of where we are right now, we're creating the dialogue to have the conversation as to these are the things that our employers of our students are asking for. How can we actually integrate these themes into things that are already happening? And then how can we actually utilize that through an integrated process? So some of the things that you're asking is above our pay grade, but if we are the agents and the voices of change, we potentially may see those changes occur.
Okay, I just want to add something.
Dan has the answer. We talked about it last night for about 30 minutes. What was the conversation about, Dan? Quiz. What's that? You said there was a. Yeah. You said that you were involved in a study, an NRC study, looking at different countries, and that you studied a number of things. It was a relationship between different factors and science and technology investment. Okay. They studied. It's okay to tell the story since I'm already on the hook here. They looked at traditional economic factors, found no correlation. They looked at non-traditional factors, found no correlation. He said they polled the 19 or 20 people on the study at the end, and they all came up with the same answer. And the answer was, if you truly want to create change, you got to look at the culture. You got to change the culture, and you'll begin to make the change. And I, being cheeky, said, can I extrapolate that to universities and colleges? And I believe the answer is that we have to, administrators at all levels, faculty at all levels, have to recognize that culture drives so much of what we do, and we need to look at what the culture needs to be and determine how we change the culture to achieve what we think we need to have. Yes.
Yeah, it's a quick one to build on that. I feel like, Trevor's point, I feel like if we have to rely on the faculty and administrators, then all of these things are going to eventually fizzle out, because the culture of universities is dictated by students. I mean, students.
Not completely. No.
In a lot of ways, the traditions that are there outlast faculty. Like a place like places that have been around for 100 years, they have traditions that are student-driven. Maybe Georgia Tech's different, but I don't think it is. That really dictate how students interact with each other, what their expectations are of the classes. And I feel like a lot of these things we should be thinking more about how we can figure out how to build within the student culture to want to integrate these things more than rely on faculty. Because the faculty are going to move on. We're going to get different jobs in different places. can't do that enough. So I would just encourage you to comment, and you may disagree, but to think about the student angle through student organizations, through student leaders, and attacking these people to figure out, get them in the conversation, figure out what they can do in their clubs to try to promote this type of integration, because they're the ones that have the best interest in the university. They're the ones that will be giving money to the university for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
I totally respect the history of the university. My undergraduate alma mater has been around since 1794. It's got a long history there. But at Northwestern, engineering design has really grown tremendously over the last 20 years. And that wasn't there 20 years ago. the Siegel Design Institute was founded in 2006. I have a faculty position in the Siegel Design Institute, so do a few other people. Design Thinking and Communication, which is our flagship program, was created in 1997. It's tremendous, and all of our freshman students have to go through it. So that was driven by the deans and the faculty, and it's changed the culture in terms of engineering design. But to support your point, we also are the home of Design for America, which is an extracurricular activity at 20 other universities. It's changing the culture nationally, and that is extracurricular and driven by the students. So I think it's happening on both ends, and we're showing some success as a result.
Okay, Darryl, you sure that incoming chair.
Well, I think, Gary, you're right a little bit, and I think your comments about changing design is great, because that's what all of our leaders are really hands-on. But I think that your global scheme and themes across these various years in context, the Grand Challenge Scholars Program is about doing that, right? And it actually dovetails very well with your themes, right? Critical thinking, leadership, service, it's all in the Grand Challenge Scholars Program of the National Academy. And many schools, now 60 in the U.S. have adopted the program. It's about changing culture, but it's about integrating the curriculum as well, and getting the socially conscious kids that we teach, between 2 years of age, who connect these social problems with grand challenges. And that's allowed us to change the curriculum and implement these themes across it, right? And they're risen to that. So it's a combination of both faculty and curriculum, but also the students. The only thing you're missing in your themes is the global context. I don't see anything where you said global context. Where is it?
Yeah, it's right here.
That GS, what does that say?
Yeah, that's where it's global, societal.
Economic and environmental.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify my point, it wasn't that I just don't hear students that you talk about. And Georgia Tech has had an Energy Institute for probably 2 decades. But in the past year, we finally got a student-driven energy club. They got catalyzed by a couple of faculty members who found the right students. And it's completely changed the energy landscape at Georgia Tech. And it's all student-run because the students really bought into it. Before it was just institutional level. So I just think that's something important to consider as a part of the equation.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody on this team disagrees that what the students do extracurricularly is not to be considered or not to be encouraged. But I think we also think that we have control over these courses. We don't necessarily have control over those extracurricular activities as much. And so I think we can inform these courses. I teach a lot of engineering courses, and I think that I can integrate all of these.